The crystal chandeliers sparkled above 300 guests in evening wear, and Simone's heart should have been bursting with pride. Instead, it was shattering into pieces that cut deeper with every passing second. She stood frozen in her emerald silk gown, the one she'd spent 2 months finding for this exact moment, while her husband Gregory held out a white kitchen apron in front of everyone gathered for the grand opening of the Sterling Harbor Hotel. "Come on, honey," Gregory said with that smile he used when he wanted something. His voice carried across the marble lobby through the microphone pinned to his tuxedo lapel. "The dishwashing staff didn't show up and we need someone reliable. You've always been so good at helping out." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Simone's face burned as 300 pairs of eyes fixed on her. These were investors, business partners, reporters from hospitality magazines, and social media influencers with their phones already recording. This was supposed to be her night too. She had spent 5 years listening to Gregory's dreams about this hotel, had encouraged him through every setback, had even suggested the name when he couldn't decide. "Gregory, I don't think," she started, but he cut her off. "Please, Simone. You know how important tonight is. I can't have dirty dishes piling up in the kitchen. Just for an hour or two. You understand, right?" The way he said it made her refusal seem selfish. Like she would be the one ruining his special night if she said no. Natasha, the young event coordinator, stepped forward from the crowd with a sympathetic expression that didn't reach her eyes. "I would help, but I need to manage the guest list," Natasha said sweetly. "Someone has to keep everything running smoothly out here." More chuckles from the audience. Someone whispered loud enough for Simone to hear, "Guess we know who really runs things." Simone's hands trembled as she took the apron. The fabric felt rough against her palms, so different from the smooth silk of her dress. She had worked 3 jobs to put Gregory through hotel management school while she put her own dreams of interior design on hold. She had used her inheritance from her father to help fund this building when Gregory's investors backed out at the last minute. Her money had paid for the marble floors everyone stood on, the chandeliers that sparkled overhead, the custom furniture in every room. But her name wasn't on the deed. Her name wasn't on the promotional materials. Her name wasn't mentioned once in Gregory's opening speech about making dreams come true through dedication and hard work. As she walked through the crowd toward the kitchen, her heels clicking against the floor she'd paid for, she heard the whispers clearly now. "I thought she was his business partner. No, just the wife. How embarrassing. Did you see her face? Someone should tell her green is not her color. I heard she's been spending his money like crazy." The kitchen was chaos. Stacks of dirty plates covered every surface, and the 3 staff members who had shown up looked overwhelmed and apologetic. One of them, a young woman named Claire, stared at Simone in her evening gown and apron with obvious confusion. "Ma'am, are you supposed to be back here?" Claire asked. "Apparently," Simone replied, her voice barely steady. She tied the apron over her dress and plunged her hands into hot, soapy water. The emerald silk would probably be ruined by splashes and steam, but she couldn't think about that now. Through the kitchen door, she could hear Gregory's voice on the microphone, charming the guests with stories about his vision and perseverance. He talked about sacrifice and hard work as if he'd done it alone. An hour passed. Then 2. Simone's feet ached in her heels, and her hands were raw from the water. Her carefully styled hair fell in damp strands around her face. Through the small window in the kitchen door, she could see Natasha laughing with guests, touching Gregory's arm, fitting perfectly into the role of sophisticated hostess. The role Simone should have been playing. It was nearly midnight when Gregory finally came to the kitchen. He didn't look at the dishes she'd washed or thank the staff who'd stayed late. He looked at Simone with impatience. "Are you almost done? I need you to come say goodbye to the mayor. It looks bad that you've been hiding back here all night." Hiding. As if she'd chosen this. "I'm washing the dishes you told me to wash," Simone said quietly. "Well, hurry up. And maybe fix your hair first. You look tired." He left before she could respond. Claire and the other staff members exchanged uncomfortable glances. They'd heard everything. Simone untied the apron with numb fingers. Her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator showed a woman she barely recognized. Damp hair, smudged makeup, shoulders slumped in defeat. This wasn't who she was supposed to be. This wasn't the life she'd imagined when she married Gregory 10 years ago. She walked back out to the lobby where only a handful of guests remained. The mayor had already left. Gregory stood with Natasha and a few investors, and when he saw Simone, disappointment flashed across his face. "Never mind," he said. "It's too late now." Natasha touched his shoulder with practiced sympathy. "Don't worry. There will be other opportunities to make connections." Simone stood there in her ruined dress, smelling of dish soap and sweat, while her husband and his event coordinator discussed future plans as if she wasn't there. As if she hadn't just spent 3 hours in a hot kitchen while they enjoyed champagne and success. That night, riding home in silence while Gregory scrolled through social media reactions to the opening, Simone made a decision. She didn't announce it. She didn't cry or confront him. She simply decided that this was the last time Gregory would humiliate her. The last time she would make herself small for his comfort. The last time she would sacrifice her dignity for his success. She just didn't know yet how thoroughly everything was about to change. Orchestrated narrative progression through character discovery and plot development. I need to continue with Chapter 2, which should cover Simone discovering the affair through a letter from Natasha. I need to make sure it flows logically from Chapter 1 and sets up her planning phase. Each chapter needs to be around 1,000 words. Simone woke up the next morning to an empty bed. Gregory had left early, a note on the nightstand saying he had morning meetings with investors. The house felt different in the daylight, bigger and lonelier than it had before. She lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying the previous night frame by frame, and each memory made her feel smaller. She finally got up around 9 and made coffee in the kitchen they'd renovated 3 years ago. Her money, his design choices. That pattern ran through their entire marriage, she realized now. Her contributions made invisible while his achievements took center stage. Gregory's tuxedo jacket hung on the back of a dining room chair, abandoned in his rush out the door. Simone picked it up to hang in the closet, and a piece of paper fell from the inside pocket. She bent to retrieve it, expecting a receipt or business card. Instead, she found a handwritten letter on cream-colored stationery with the initials NR in gold at the top. Natasha Reynolds. Her hands shook as she read. My darling Gregory, last night was perfect. Watching you shine in front of all those people, knowing that soon we won't have to hide anymore, made everything worth it. The hotel is just the beginning for us. Thank you for the bracelet. I'll treasure it always, just like I treasure every moment we steal together. I know the situation with Simone is complicated, but you've been clear that you're only staying until the hotel is established. I can wait a little longer. We've already waited 2 years, what's a few more months? All my love, and Simone read it 3 times. Then a fourth. 2 years. They'd been having an affair for 2 years. She thought back to when Natasha started working as Gregory's event coordinator, right after they broke ground on the hotel. The late meetings. The business trips. The nights Gregory came home smelling of perfume he claimed was from greeting female investors. All of it had been right in front of her. The bracelet detail stuck in her mind. She opened her laptop and checked their joint credit card statement, something she rarely did because Gregory always said he handled the finances. There it was 3 weeks ago, a purchase at an expensive jewelry store for $8,000. The same day he told Simone they needed to cut back on spending, and suggested she stop her monthly donations to her father's charity foundation. She kept scrolling through the statements, and the pattern emerged like a photograph developing. Expensive dinners at restaurants they'd never been to together. Hotel rooms in the city where they already lived. Charges at designer boutiques. Spa packages. All of it disguised among business expenses, spread out enough that she hadn't noticed when she occasionally glanced at the bills. Her phone buzzed with a text from Gregory, lunch meeting running late. Don't wait up for dinner either. Big potential investor. Simone stared at the message. Before yesterday she would have believed him. She would have heated up leftovers alone and felt grateful he was working so hard for their future. Now she wondered if Natasha was sitting across from him right now, planning the life they'd build once Simone was gone. She spent the rest of the day searching. Not frantically but methodically. She went through Gregory's home office, photographing documents with her phone. She checked the safe where they kept important papers and found the hotel deed, Gregory's name only, despite her inheritance funding 40% of the construction. She found investment papers, partnership agreements, business plans. Her money was everywhere. Her name was nowhere. In the back of a filing cabinet, she discovered a folder labeled Personal. Inside were bank statements for an account she'd never seen, one in Gregory's name only. The balances made her stomach drop. Over the past 2 years, he'd transferred nearly $200,000 from their joint account to this private one. Money she'd inherited from her father, money from the sale of her childhood home, money she'd thought was safely invested in their future together. There were also printouts of emails between Gregory and Natasha, discussing their plans. They'd been careful not to say anything too explicit, but the meaning was clear. Once the hotel was profitable, Gregory planned to divorce Simone. Natasha had already picked out apartments for them to view. They discussed which of Simone's friends they'd need to manage to control the narrative. She'll be upset at first, Gregory had written, but she's always been reasonable. We'll offer her a fair settlement and she'll move on. She's too passive to fight. Passive. The word hit her like a slap. Was that really how he saw her? After 10 years of supporting his dreams, after putting her own career aside, after funding his success with her inheritance, he thought she was passive? Maybe he was right. Maybe she had been. But not anymore. Simone photographed everything. The emails, the bank statements, the hotel deed, the credit card charges. She uploaded them to a secure cloud account Gregory didn't know about. Then she carefully put everything back exactly as she'd found it. That night, Gregory came home at 11, smelling of wine and the same perfume from Natasha's letter. He kissed Simone's forehead like everything was normal. "How was your day?" he asked. "Quiet," Simone replied. "How was the investor meeting?" "Promising. This guy might put in another 100,000. Things are really coming together." He went to shower and Simone sat in the living room, her phone in her hand. She could confront him now. She could throw the letter in his face and scream about the betrayal. But what would that accomplish? He'd deny it or he'd turn it around on her somehow. He was good at that, at making her doubt her own perceptions, at making his mistakes feel like her failures. No, confrontation wasn't the answer. Gregory had been planning his exit strategy for 2 years, carefully positioning himself to leave her with nothing while he and Natasha built their new life on the foundation of Simone's inheritance. It was time for Simone to plan too. The next morning she called a lawyer. The law office of Patricia Hamilton sat on the 32nd floor of a downtown building, with windows overlooking the city Simone had called home for 15 years. Patricia herself was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through the pleasant facade Simone had spent years perfecting. "Tell me everything," Patricia said once they were settled in her private office. "Don't leave anything out even if it seems small." Simone had prepared for this meeting, organizing all her evidence into a folder on her tablet. But when she started talking, the words tumbled out in a rush. The humiliation at the hotel opening. The letter from Natasha. The hidden bank account. The 2-year affair. The plans to divorce her once the hotel was profitable. Patricia listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When Simone finished, the lawyer was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know exactly how much of your inheritance went into the hotel?" Patricia asked. "Not exactly. Maybe 400,000? Gregory handled most of the financial paperwork. That's what we need to establish first. I'm going to recommend you hire a forensic accountant. Someone who can trace every dollar and show exactly where your money went." Patricia leaned forward. "Simone, from what you're telling me, this isn't just a divorce case. This could be financial fraud. If your husband used your inheritance for his business without your informed consent, if he transferred funds without your knowledge, that's potentially criminal." Simone hadn't thought of it that way. She'd been so focused on the affair, on the betrayal of trust, that she hadn't fully processed the financial manipulation. "What do I do now?" she asked. "First, don't let him know you're suspicious. Keep acting normal. Second, don't sign anything he gives you, no matter how innocent it seems. Third, start securing your own finances. Do you have any money in accounts that are only in your name?" Simone thought about it. "There's about 30,000 in an account my father set up for me when I was younger. Gregory doesn't know about it. I never mentioned it because it seemed like my emergency fund." "Good. That's your escape money. Don't touch it yet, but know it's there. I'm going to connect you with Bernard Chin." Patricia caught herself. "Sorry, Bernard Thompson. He's the best forensic accountant in the state. He'll need access to all your financial records." "How long will this take?" "If we're thorough?" "About 3 months to build a complete case. But Simone, I need to know something before we proceed. What do you want from this? Do you want to save the marriage, or are you done?" The question was direct, and Simone appreciated that. She thought about Gregory's face last night, the easy lies, the kiss on her forehead while smelling like another woman's perfume. "I'm done," she said. "But I don't just want a divorce. I want what's mine. Every dollar he took, every opportunity he stole, every moment of my life I spent building his dream while he planned to throw me away. I want it back." Patricia smiled. "Then let's get to work." Over the next 6 weeks, Simone lived 2 lives. In one life, she was Gregory's dutiful wife. She attended hotel events, smiled for photos, listened to his stories about difficult guests and staffing problems. She asked interested questions about Natasha's event planning, and Gregory never suspected the name made Simone's stomach turn. In her other life, she met with Bernard Thompson twice a week. The forensic accountant was a quiet man in his 40s who approached money the way a detective approached crime scenes. He requested documents, and Simone provided them, taking photos when Gregory was at work or carefully checking out papers from the safe while he showered. The picture Bernard built was damning. Simone's inheritance of $560,000 from her father's estate had been systematically funneled into Gregory's hotel project. But Gregory had structured everything so that Simone had no ownership stake. The hotel was registered as a sole proprietorship under Gregory's name. The business loan he'd obtained listed Simone's inheritance as his personal assets, used for collateral. "He's been very clever," Bernard explained during one meeting. "Everything is legal on paper because technically, once your inheritance went into the joint account, it became marital property. And spouses can use marital property for business investments." "So I have no case?" Simone asked, her heart sinking. "I didn't say that. The issue is disclosure and intent. Did he fully explain to you that your inheritance would be converted to business assets you'd have no direct claim to? Did he get your informed consent? Or did he tell you it was a joint investment while actually excluding you from ownership?" Simone remembered the conversations from 3 years ago. Gregory had said, "We should use some of your father's money to get the hotel started. It'll be our legacy." Not his legacy. Our legacy. She'd signed papers he put in front of her, trusting that "our" meant what it should mean between married people. "He never told me my name wouldn't be on anything," Simone said. "He said we and our and us. I thought I was investing in something we owned together." "That's fraud," Bernard said simply. "Misrepresentation of material facts to obtain your assets. Add that to the evidence of his affair and plans to divorce you, and we can argue he was deliberately positioning himself to benefit from your money while planning to leave you with nothing. That shows intent and pattern." What about the money he transferred to his private account? Also problematic for him. Spouses are allowed to have separate accounts, but systematically draining joint marital assets into a hidden account while planning a divorce is dissipation of marital property. A judge won't like that. The investigation revealed more troubling details. Gregory had taken out a business credit card in Simone's name without telling her, using her excellent credit score to secure better terms. That card now had a balance of $75,000, business expenses he'd charged while she knew nothing about the account's existence. Natasha's involvement went deeper than just the affair. She owned 10% of the hotel through a sweat equity arrangement Gregory had offered her. Simone had never heard about any employee being offered ownership stakes. "She's been working for free?" Simone asked. "No, she draws a salary too. $6,000 a month, which is high for an event coordinator. The ownership stake was a separate agreement." Bernard showed her the paperwork. "The interesting thing is, this agreement was made 18 months ago, right around the time the emails between her and your husband became romantic. I can't prove correlation, but the timing is suspicious." Everything was suspicious now. Simone saw her entire marriage differently, like a picture coming into focus after years of blur. The times Gregory said they couldn't afford something she wanted, but somehow found money for his business. The way he made big financial decisions and presented them to her as already done. The subtle ways he'd made her feel like her opinions on money didn't matter because she wasn't good with numbers. She'd let him convince her she wasn't smart enough to understand their finances. She trusted him to manage everything while she managed the home, the social calendar, the emotional labor of their marriage. And he'd used that trust to steal from her. By the end of the investigation, Bernard had documented everything. He prepared a report that showed, with receipts and bank records and timeline analysis, exactly how Gregory had converted Simone's inheritance into his personal business asset, how he'd hidden money, how he'd used her credit without permission, and how all of it aligned with his plan to eventually divorce her and keep everything. "This is a strong case," Patricia said when they reviewed Bernard's findings. "Really strong. But I need to ask again, are you ready for what comes next? Because once we file, there's no going back. This will get ugly. Gregory will fight. His lawyer will try to make you look bad. They'll say you knew about everything and agreed to it. They might even claim you're only upset because of the affair and you're trying to hurt him financially out of spite." Simone thought about that night at the hotel opening. Standing in front of 300 people in a kitchen apron. The sound of laughter following her through the crowd. Gregory's disappointed face when she'd missed the mayor because she was washing his dishes. She thought about Natasha's letter, the casual certainty that Simone was too passive to fight back. "I'm ready," Simone said. "Let's file." Patricia filed the divorce papers on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. By 11, Gregory received the notification at the hotel. By noon he was calling Simone's phone nonstop. She didn't answer. She was sitting in Patricia's office, going through the next phase of the plan. "He'll come home angry," Patricia warned. "Don't be alone with him if you feel unsafe. But also don't leave the house yet. We haven't secured your rights to the property. If you move out, his lawyer will claim you abandoned the marital home." "I don't think he'll hurt me," Simone said. "He's never been violent. Anger makes people unpredictable. Just be careful." Simone went home and waited. She'd already moved her important documents to a safety deposit box Gregory didn't know about. Her father's watch, her mother's jewelry, her passport, her birth certificate. The things that mattered. She'd also opened a new bank account at a different institution and had her personal mail redirected to a P.O. box. Gregory burst through the door at 2 in the afternoon. His face was red, his tie loosened, his usually perfect hair disheveled. "What the hell is this?" He waved his phone showing the legal notification. "You filed for divorce? Without even talking to me?" Simone stood in the kitchen, her hands steady even though her heart raced. "Did you talk to me before you started an affair with Natasha? Did you talk to me before you transferred $200,000 to your private account? Did you talk to me before you decided our marriage had an expiration date?" The color drained from his face. "You went through my things. You went through my inheritance. That's different. That was business. That was investment in our future." "Your future," Simone corrected. "The hotel is in your name only. I own nothing. That was the plan, wasn't it? Use my money to build your dream, then leave me with nothing once it was successful." Gregory's expression shifted through several emotions: shock, anger, calculation. She watched him decide how to play this. He chose manipulation. "Simone, honey, you've misunderstood. The hotel is in my name for liability reasons, but it's ours. Everything I do is for us." He stepped closer, using the gentle voice he used when he wanted something. "I don't know what you think you found, but this is crazy. We can work this out. Call your lawyer and stop this before it goes too far. I found Natasha's letter. I found the emails. I found the secret bank account and the plans to divorce me. I hired a forensic accountant who traced every dollar of my inheritance. Don't lie to me anymore, Gregory. I'm done being passive." His face hardened. The mask dropped. "Fine. You want to do this? Fine. But you're going to look like a fool. You have no proof of anything. The money in our joint account is marital property. I'm allowed to use it. The hotel is my business. You signed papers agreeing to all of this." "I signed papers you told me were joint investments." "That's fraud." "That's your interpretation. My lawyer will have a different one." He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Patricia Hamilton. I know that's who you hired. She's good but expensive. Hope you can afford her on your own because as of today, you're cut off from our accounts." "You can't do that. The accounts are joint. Watch me." He made a call right there, putting it on speaker. When the bank representative answered, Gregory said, "This is Gregory Fletcher. I need to freeze all transactions on my joint accounts. My wife and I are separating and I need to protect our assets." The representative was professionally sympathetic. "I understand, Mr. Fletcher. We can place a hold that requires both signatures for any withdrawals over $100. Gregory smiled at Simone. "Perfect. That's exactly what I want." After he hung up, he straightened his tie. "You want to play games, Simone? I've been playing this game for 2 years. You have no money, no ownership of anything, and no leverage. You should take whatever settlement I offer and be grateful." "We'll see what the judge thinks about that," Simone said. He laughed. "The judge? This is going to take months, maybe a year to get to court. What are you going to live on while you wait? Where will you go? This house is in my name too, remember? You can stay here for now because legally you're still my wife, but once the divorce is final, you're out." After Gregory left, slamming the door behind him, Simone called Patricia. "He froze the accounts," she reported. "Expected. Don't worry. We'll file an emergency motion for spousal support and temporary funds. The judge will order him to maintain the status quo." Patricia paused. "How are you doing? That couldn't have been easy." "I'm okay," Simone said. And surprisingly she was. Angry, yes. Hurt, definitely. But also clear-headed in a way she hadn't been in years. "What's next?" "Next, he's going to have Natasha call you." "What? Why would she call me?" "Because his lawyer will tell him that you could file alienation of affection claims against her, which could cost her money. So they'll try the sympathy approach. She'll call, crying, saying it's all a misunderstanding. That Gregory loves you. That she's willing to step aside. It's a manipulation tactic to get you to drop the case or accept a bad settlement. You think she'll actually do that? I know she will. I've seen this pattern in dozens of cases. The other woman doesn't want to lose money or her reputation. Right now, her name is in all our filings as the affair partner. That's not great for someone who works in the hospitality industry where reputation matters. She'll try to smooth things over. Patricia was right. 3 hours later, Natasha called. Simone? It's Natasha. Please don't hang up. Simone's finger hovered over the end button, but curiosity won. What do you want? I need you to know that this is all a huge misunderstanding. Gregory loves you so much. He's been incredibly upset about this divorce filing. I think maybe you found some emails that were taken out of context. The email where you talked about waiting for him to leave me? That context. Natasha's voice got smaller. I was confused. We work closely together and sometimes lines get blurred. But Gregory has been clear that his marriage to you is his priority. I think we all just need to sit down and talk about this like adults. I'm not interested in talking. Please, Simone. You're ruining his business. The hotel needs both of you focused. Gregory says investors are getting nervous about the divorce. If you care about all the work you both put into this, you'll reconsider. There it was. The real concern. Money. Natasha, let me be very clear. I don't care about Gregory's business. I don't care about his investors. I don't care what happens to the hotel. And I definitely don't care what happens to you. Don't call me again. She hung up and blocked the number. Then she called Patricia back. She called, Simone said. Just like you predicted. What did she say? That it's all a misunderstanding. That Gregory loves me. That I'm hurting the business. All of it. Did you engage? I told her to leave me alone, then I blocked her number. Perfect. That's exactly right. Don't give them anything to work with. No angry outbursts they can record, no threats, no negotiating. Just silence and legal action. Over the next 2 weeks, the legal battle intensified. Patricia filed motions for temporary spousal support, access to financial records, and exclusive use of the marital home. Gregory's lawyer filed countermotions claiming Simone was trying to destroy his business out of spite, that she had always known about the business arrangements, and that she was exaggerating the affair for financial gain. The judge ordered Gregory to pay Simone $3,000 a month in temporary support and granted both of them access to copies of all financial documents. The marital home would remain shared until the divorce was final, but neither could change locks or deny the other access. Gregory complied with the judge's orders, but barely. He had the support money transferred at exactly midnight on the last day it was due each month. He made copies of financial documents but left them in stacks of unsorted papers that Simone and Bernard had to organize themselves. He came and went from the house at odd hours, making sure Simone never felt settled. But Simone had something Gregory didn't expect. The $30,000 from her father's old account, plus the temporary support, was enough to start planning her next move. She wasn't just fighting for what Gregory had taken. She was building something new. Something that would be entirely hers. Simone stood in the empty building on Harbor Street, 3 blocks from Gregory's hotel, and felt something she hadn't felt in years: excitement. The space was smaller than the Sterling Harbor, only 12 rooms compared to Gregory's 50, but the bones were beautiful. Original hardwood. Floors, high ceilings with decorative molding, large windows that flooded the lobby with natural light. It needs work, the real estate agent Monica said apologetically. It's been sitting empty for 2 years since the previous owners retired. But the price reflects that. The price was $200,000. More than Simone had in her emergency account, but less than she could potentially get with investors and a small business loan. The bigger question was whether she could actually do this. Can I have a few days to think about it? Simone asked. Of course. But I should tell you, there's another interested party who's scheduled to view it tomorrow. Simone walked through the building alone after Monica left to take a phone call. The rooms were dusty and outdated, with floral wallpaper from 20 years ago and bathroom fixtures that needed replacing. But she could see the potential. Each room had good natural light. The location was prime, close to the waterfront and the business district. The building had character that Gregory's modern hotel lacked. She thought about her interior design degree, abandoned a decade ago when Gregory said hotel management was more practical. She thought about all the suggestions she'd made for the Sterling Harbor that Gregory had dismissed as too expensive or not on brand. She thought about every skill she'd developed managing their home, organizing events, coordinating contractors, all the invisible work that Gregory never valued. What if she stopped asking Gregory for permission? What if she stopped waiting for him to see her value? What if she just did it? She called Bernard Thompson. I need to know exactly what I can afford, she told him. I want to buy a building and start my own hotel. During the divorce? Bernard sounded surprised. That could complicate things. Can it be done legally? Yes. Technically, any assets you acquire after filing for divorce are separate property, not marital. But Gregory's lawyer will argue you're using marital funds or funds that should go to the settlement. The money is from an account Gregory doesn't know about. My father set it up for me before I was married. It was always mine. Then legally you're clear. Strategically. Bernard paused. It might actually be brilliant. If you can show the judge you're building a successful business, it demonstrates you don't need ongoing support from Gregory. It also shows you're taking initiative to secure your own future. So I can do it? You can do it. Want me to look at the financials of the property? Simone sent him the details and he called back 3 hours later. The building is underpriced for the location. With renovations, you're probably looking at another $150,000 to make it guest ready. Can you get that kind of financing? I don't know. I've never tried. You might be surprised. You have excellent credit that Gregory hasn't ruined yet, and if you have a solid business plan, banks like small boutique hotels. They're trendy right now. That night, instead of dwelling on the divorce or Gregory's latest hostile text message, Simone opened her laptop and started building a business plan. She'd helped Gregory write his proposal to investors years ago, essentially doing all the work while he presented it. She knew what banks wanted to see: market analysis, competitive advantage, financial projections, marketing strategy. She worked until 3 in the morning, fueled by coffee and a determination she'd forgotten she possessed. Her hotel wouldn't compete with the Sterling Harbor on size or luxury. Instead, it would offer something different: intimate, personal service, artistic design that showcased local creators, sustainability features, a boutique experience where guests felt like individuals rather than room numbers. She called it the Lighthouse Hotel, a beacon for people looking for something better. Over the next month, Simone threw herself into the project with intensity that surprised her. She met with 3 different banks and got approved for a business loan of $100,000 with her building purchase as collateral. She found an investor, Rachel, who owned 2 successful restaurants downtown and was looking to diversify. Rachel agreed to invest $50,000 in exchange for 15% ownership. I like your vision, Rachel said over coffee. And I like that you're doing this during a divorce. Shows guts. My husband thinks I'm too passive to fight back, Simone admitted. Good. Let him keep thinking that until you prove him wrong. Gregory found out about the Lighthouse Hotel when a mutual friend mentioned seeing Simone meeting with contractors. He showed up at the property on a Tuesday afternoon, his face tight with anger. You're opening a hotel? He demanded. Are you insane? You don't know anything about running a hotel. I've been watching you do it for 5 years. How hard can it be? The words came out calmer than Simone felt. She continued reviewing paint samples with the designer, Yolanda, who raised her eyebrows at the interruption. This is my industry, Gregory said. My territory. You can't just come in here and think you can compete with me. I'm not competing with you. I'm building something different. With what money? You can't use marital funds for this. I'm not. This is completely separate from our divorce. My lawyer confirmed it's legal. Gregory's jaw clenched. I'll have my lawyer look into that. And good luck getting any decent staff. Everyone in this city knows I'll blacklist anyone who works for you. Yolanda, the designer, spoke up. Actually, Mr. Fletcher, I quit working on your hotel last month because you refused to pay my invoice. I'm sure Simone will be a better client. After Gregory left, Yolanda grinned. That felt good. Sorry if I overstepped. You didn't, Simone assured her. Is it true about the unpaid invoice? 3 months overdue. I'm taking him to small claims court next month. Yolanda returned to the paint samples. Now I'm thinking this sage green for the rooms. It's calming but still interesting. What do you think? Simone thought it was perfect. The renovation became all-consuming in the best way. Simone was on site every day making decisions, solving problems, learning as she went. She hired a staff of 6. A manager, a front desk clerk, 2 housekeepers, a breakfast chef, and a maintenance person. All of them were people who'd applied to work at the Sterling Harbor and been rejected by Gregory as not a good fit. You wanted people with too much personality, said Jamie, the front desk clerk. He wanted robots who'd follow orders without questions. I prefer working for someone who values thinking. The hotel came together faster than Simone expected. Yolanda worked magic with the design, creating spaces that felt both elegant and welcoming. Each room was different, decorated with art from local creators. The common areas had comfortable seating and shelves of books. The small breakfast room featured a menu from the chef using ingredients from nearby farms. It wasn't fancy like the Sterling Harbor. It was better. It had soul. 3 months after filing for divorce, Simone opened the Lighthouse Hotel. She didn't have a big gala with 300 guests. She had a quiet opening with 50 people. Her lawyer Patricia, her accountant Bernard, her investor Rachel, her staff, and some old friends who'd stood by her through the divorce. No crystal chandeliers. No pretense. Just good wine, simple food, and genuine joy. Gregory didn't come, obviously. But Natasha did, showing up uninvited and claiming she just wanted to congratulate Simone. It took everything in Simone's power not to have her escorted out, but she simply said, "Thank you for stopping by, but this event is for people who supported me. You need to leave." Natasha's face went red, but she left. The first week, the Lighthouse Hotel booked 4 rooms. The second week, 7. By the end of the first month, they were at 80% occupancy. A travel blogger visited and wrote a glowing review. A magazine featured the hotel in an article about boutique stays with heart. Gregory's hotel was still more successful in terms of sheer numbers, but it was also bleeding money due to high overhead and staffing problems. Simone heard through industry connections that guests complained about impersonal service and nickel-and-diming on amenities. The Lighthouse got the opposite feedback. Personal touches. Fair prices. Staff who actually cared. 4 months into operation, Simone received an email from a hospitality investment group asking if she'd be interested in expanding to a second location. They'd seen the magazine article and loved her concept. She sat in her small office at the hotel, reading the email 3 times. A second location. 6 months ago, she'd been washing dishes in a kitchen apron while her husband humiliated her in front of hundreds of people. Now, investors wanted to fund her expansion. She thought about calling someone to share the news, but realized there was no one she needed to tell. This success was hers alone, and that made it even sweeter. She replied to the email, "I'm very interested. Let's set up a meeting." The Sterling Harbor Hotel's problems started small. A 1-star review complaining about cold breakfast food. A mix-up with a reservation that left a family without a room on their vacation. Broken air conditioner that took 3 days to fix. Gregory dismissed these as normal operational issues that all hotels faced. But the problems multiplied. Staff turnover became a crisis. The Sterling Harbor went through 4 front desk managers in 6 months. The head housekeeper quit without notice, taking half the housekeeping staff with her. They all ended up working at smaller hotels in the area, including the Lighthouse, where Simone paid less but treated people like human beings instead of interchangeable parts. "You're poaching my employees," Gregory accused during one of their mandatory divorce mediation sessions. "I'm hiring qualified people who apply to work for me," Simone corrected. "If they prefer working at my hotel, that says something about your management style, not my hiring practices." The mediator, a patient woman named Helen, intervened before Gregory could respond. "Let's focus on the financial disclosures for the divorce settlement, please." But Gregory's hotel troubles were relevant to the divorce because they affected his ability to pay the settlement Patricia was demanding. Bernard's forensic accounting had proven that Gregory used Simone's inheritance to fund 42% of the Sterling Harbor's construction and initial operations. Patricia was arguing that Simone deserved 42% of the hotel's value, plus damages for fraud and emotional distress. Gregory's lawyer argued the hotel was worth less than the outstanding debts, making Simone's claim essentially worthless. "My client took a risk on a business venture that isn't as profitable as hoped. That's not fraud. That's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship with someone else's money, obtained through misrepresentation," Patricia countered. "Your client told Miss Simone Fletcher she was investing in their joint future. He neglected to mention she'd have 0 ownership and he'd be planning to divorce her before the hotel even opened." Helen looked at the evidence Bernard had compiled. The emails between Gregory and Natasha discussing divorce timelines. The ownership documents that excluded Simone entirely. The secret bank account where Gregory had been hiding money. The credit card in Simone's name that she'd never authorized. "Mr. Fletcher, I'm going to be honest," Helen said. "This doesn't look good for you. I strongly recommend you come to the table with a fair settlement offer, or a judge is going to make decisions you like even less." Gregory's settlement offer arrived 2 days later. $50,000 and a promise not to interfere with her little hotel business. Patricia called Simone immediately. It's insulting. Your documented contribution to his hotel was $560,000. He's offering less than 10%. Reject it, Simone said without hesitation. We're going to trial then. Are you prepared for that? Completely. What Gregory didn't know was that Simone's little hotel business was thriving. The expansion to a second location was moving forward, with the investment group providing funding for a property in a tourist town 2 hours north. Simone spent her days running between the two locations, exhausted but energized in a way she'd never been during her marriage. The Lighthouse Hotel's success was based on things Gregory had always dismissed as impractical: treating employees well, which created genuine customer service, investing in quality experiences rather than flashy but hollow luxury, listening to feedback and making changes quickly. Simple concepts that Gregory considered too expensive or too much trouble. Meanwhile, the Sterling Harbor continued its decline. A health inspector found violations in the kitchen. Nothing dangerous, but enough to require a reinspection and generate bad publicity. A wedding party left a scathing review after the event coordinator, who'd replaced Natasha, mixed up their dietary restrictions. Small disasters that individually were manageable, but together created a narrative of a hotel that was all style and no substance. Natasha had quit the Sterling Harbor 3 months after the divorce filing. Simone heard through mutual acquaintances that Natasha had moved to another city, taking a position at a competitor hotel. The affair had become known in the industry after the divorce filings became public record, and her reputation suffered. Hotels didn't want event coordinators who'd had affairs with married owners. It raised questions about professionalism. Gregory was running the Sterling Harbor alone now, and it showed. He'd never actually managed the day-to-day operations before. Simone had handled much of that work invisibly, fielding complaints, solving staffing issues, maintaining relationships with vendors. Natasha had covered the rest. Without either of them, Gregory floundered. He tried to hire a general manager, but couldn't afford anyone with real experience. The person he settled for lasted 3 weeks before quitting with an email that circulated through the hospitality industry: "Working for Gregory Fletcher is impossible. He micromanages everything but refuses to make decisions. He blames staff for his own mistakes. He's burning through his operating budget on personal expenses. I cannot recommend this position to anyone." The email reached Simone through Jamie, her front desk clerk, who'd heard about it from a friend. Simone read it with mixed feelings. She'd wanted Gregory to face consequences, but seeing his dreams collapse brought less satisfaction than she'd expected. Mostly she felt sad. About the waste. The Sterling Harbor could have been something good if Gregory had built it with integrity instead of betrayal. The divorce trial was scheduled for October, 7 months after Simone had filed. Patricia prepared meticulously, organizing their evidence into a presentation that showed the timeline of Gregory's deception. Bernard would testify as an expert witness. They'd also subpoenaed Natasha to testify about the affair and her ownership stake in the hotel. "She's going to hate this," Patricia warned. "Expect her to try contacting you again to ask you to drop her from the case." Simone had gotten good at ignoring Gregory and Natasha's attempts at contact. She'd blocked both their numbers, filtered their emails to spam, and instructed her staff never to let them into either Lighthouse location. But Natasha found a way. She showed up at the original Lighthouse Hotel on a Tuesday morning, dressed professionally and carrying a coffee cup like she was just another guest. She walked straight to the office where Simone was reviewing invoices. "Please don't call security," Natasha said quickly. "I just need 5 minutes." Simone should have called security anyway. But curiosity won. "You have 2 minutes? Talk. I can't afford a lawyer for this trial. If I have to testify, my new employer will find out about the affair. I'll lose my job." Natasha looked genuinely desperate. "Please. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm begging you, drop me from the lawsuit. I'll testify against Gregory if you want. I'll tell them everything. Just please don't destroy my career." "You should have thought about that before you slept with my husband," Simone said flatly. "I was in love with him. I thought he loved me too. But once the divorce started, he dropped me completely. I was just a thing he used." Tears welled in Natasha's eyes. "I lost my job, my reputation, and now I might lose my new job too. How much more do I have to lose? When does it end?" Simone felt a flicker of something, not quite sympathy but recognition. Natasha had also been manipulated by Gregory, just in a different way. He'd promised her a future he had no intention of delivering, just like he'd promised Simone a partnership that never existed. You made choices, Simone said. You chose to sleep with a married man. You chose to help him plan leaving his wife. You chose to take an ownership stake in a business built with my money. Those were your decisions and you have to live with the consequences. I know. But please. My lawyer will be in touch if we decide to remove you from the case. But don't expect mercy just because you're facing the results of what you did. Gregory destroyed my life. You helped him. Now you both get to face what comes next. Natasha left and Simone sat in her office feeling strangely empty. Revenge should feel better than this. Justice should feel more satisfying. But mostly she just felt tired. She called Patricia. If we can get everything we need from Natasha's testimony without including her as a defendant, let's do that. But she testifies fully. Everything about the affair, the ownership stake, all of it. Feeling generous? Patricia asked. Feeling done, Simone corrected. I don't want to spend any more energy on people who hurt me. I want to move forward. That's healthy, Patricia said. I'll reach out to her lawyer. In exchange for her full cooperation and detailed testimony, we'll drop the alienation of affection claim against her personally. But she has to tell the truth about everything. Natasha agreed immediately. She showed up for her deposition 2 weeks before the trial, and her testimony was damning for Gregory. She detailed how he'd pursued her, how he'd told her his marriage was already over, how he'd promised to divorce Simone once the hotel was profitable. She admitted he'd given her ownership in the hotel as part of their relationship, not based on her work performance. She provided texts and emails that Patricia hadn't seen before. Did Mr. Fletcher ever discuss his wife's financial contributions to the hotel? Patricia asked. Yes. He said Simone's inheritance money was their seed funding, but that she didn't understand business, so he couldn't put her on the ownership papers. He said she'd be fine with it because she trusted him. Natasha looked down. He said she was too passive to ever question anything he did. There was that word again. Passive. Simone sat in the deposition, watching Gregory's face get redder with every answer Natasha gave, and felt nothing. No anger, no triumph, no satisfaction. Just a distant curiosity about who she'd been when she let someone treat her that way. That woman was gone now. The woman who replaced her had built 2 successful hotels, had standing meetings with investors, and had a meeting next week about a 3rd location. The woman who replaced her knew her worth and wouldn't accept less than she deserved. The woman who replaced her was ready for trial. The courtroom was smaller than Simone expected, with wood paneling and fluorescent lights that gave everything a slightly harsh glow. She sat next to Patricia at the plaintiff's table, her hands folded calmly in her lap despite her racing heart. Across the aisle, Gregory sat with his lawyer, an aggressive man named Robert Chambers who looked like he charged by the scowl. Judge Andrea Walsh entered and everyone stood. She was a woman in her 50s with gray streaks in her dark hair and an expression that suggested she'd seen every trick divorce lawyers could pull. Let's begin, Judge Walsh said, settling into her chair. I've reviewed the preliminary filings. This is a dissolution of marriage case with substantial financial disputes. Mr. Chambers, your opening statement. Gregory's lawyer stood and immediately went on the attack. Your Honor, this case is a simple matter of a bitter spouse using the legal system for revenge. Miss Fletcher is upset about a brief indiscretion and is attempting to claim ownership of a business she had no role in building. Her estranged husband, Gregory Fletcher, is a successful hotel owner who took entrepreneurial risks with marital funds, something he had every legal right to do. The fact that his business decisions didn't benefit both spouses equally doesn't constitute fraud. Patricia stood for her turn. Your Honor, this case is about systematic financial abuse and fraud. Gregory Fletcher deliberately misrepresented his intentions to his wife, converted her inheritance into business assets she'd have no claim to, hid money in secret accounts, and planned to divorce her once his business was established, all while using her credit and financial resources. This wasn't entrepreneurship. This was theft with extra steps. The trial would last 3 days, Judge Walsh explained. Today would be financial testimony. Tomorrow would cover the affair and deception. The 3rd day would be closing arguments and judgment. Bernard Thompson took the stand first, walking through his forensic accounting report. He was calm and methodical, explaining to the judge exactly how Simone's $560,000 inheritance had been traced through various accounts into the Sterling Harbor Hotel's construction and operations. And what was Miss Fletcher told about these transfers? Patricia asked. According to Miss Fletcher's testimony and contemporaneous documents, her husband told her they were investing together in their dream. The ownership documents tell a different story. Mr. Fletcher is the sole owner. Ms. Fletcher has no legal claim to any equity in the business her inheritance funded. Mr. Chambers cross-examined aggressively. Isn't it true that spouses are allowed to make business investments with marital funds? Yes, Bernard agreed. And isn't it true that many businesses fail, meaning sometimes spouses lose money on investments? Also true. So the fact that Ms. Fletcher's money went into her husband's business isn't unusual or illegal, is it? The transfers themselves aren't illegal. The misrepresentation surrounding them is the issue. If someone says, "We're buying a house together," but only puts their name on the deed, that's fraud. This is the same principle. But Ms. Fletcher is an educated woman, is she not? She has a college degree? Yes. So she could have read the documents she signed before signing them, correct? Bernard smiled slightly. She could have. But when your spouse hands you papers and says, "This is for our business," most people trust their spouse enough not to assume they're being defrauded. Simone testified next, walking through her marriage year by year. The early years when she'd worked multiple jobs to put Gregory through hotel management school. The middle years when she'd used her inheritance to support his dream of owning a hotel. The final years when he'd stopped including her in decisions, stopped valuing her contributions, and started planning a future that didn't include her. When did you first learn that your name wasn't on the hotel ownership? Patricia asked. After I found Natasha's letter and started investigating. I'd assumed I was a partner because Gregory always said, "our hotel," and "our business." It never occurred to me to check the actual papers because I trusted my husband. Mr. Chambers was brutal in cross-examination. Ms. Fletcher, isn't it true that you never worked at the Sterling Harbor Hotel in any official capacity? I did work there, but not with a title or salary. So you did no actual work? I did extensive work. I handled vendor relationships, staffing issues, customer complaints, event planning support. I just didn't get paid or credited for it. Or perhaps you did some minor tasks that your husband appreciated, but you're now exaggerating your role because you're angry about the affair? I'm not exaggerating. Isn't it true you've now opened a competing hotel out of spite? I opened a hotel because I needed income during our divorce and because I have skills in hospitality that I wanted to use. It's not spite. It's survival. A hotel that's deliberately trying to steal business from your husband's hotel? A hotel that offers better service and is succeeding based on merit. Judge Walsh intervened. Mr. Chambers, the success or failure of either party's businesses isn't relevant to the question of whether fraud occurred during the marriage. Move on. Day 2 brought Natasha to the stand. She looked miserable, dressed conservatively and avoiding eye contact with both Gregory and Simone. Under Patricia's questioning, she detailed the 2-year affair, the promises Gregory had made, the ownership stake he'd given her. Why did Mr. Fletcher give you a 10% ownership in the hotel? Patricia asked. He said it was because I was valuable to the business but also because of our relationship. He wanted me to have security for our future together. Did he mention that the hotel was built partially with his wife's inheritance? No. He said it was his money. He said Simone didn't contribute financially, just emotionally, and that wasn't worth equity. Gregory shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His lawyer objected twice, trying to claim Natasha's testimony was irrelevant, but Judge Walsh allowed it. The affair demonstrates motive and pattern, the judge explained. Mr. Fletcher's financial decisions during the affair are relevant to whether he intended to defraud his wife. The most damaging moment came when Patricia entered the emails between Gregory and Natasha into evidence. The judge read them in silence, her expression growing colder with each page. Mr. Fletcher, did you write these emails? Judge Walsh asked. Yes, Your Honor, but they were private communications taken out of context. They're dated communications showing you planned to divorce your wife once your business was profitable, that you transferred marital funds to secret accounts to hide them from her, and that you gave your affair partner ownership in a business funded by your wife's inheritance. Is there context that makes that acceptable? Gregory didn't answer. His own testimony on day 2 went poorly. He tried to claim Simone had known about everything and agreed to it, but he couldn't produce any documents supporting that. He tried to minimize the affair, calling it a brief lapse in judgment, until Patricia confronted him with proof it had lasted 2 years. He tried to claim the Sterling Harbor was failing due to market conditions, until Patricia showed profit and loss statements proving it was mismanagement. By the end of day 2, Gregory looked defeated. His lawyer requested a recess to discuss settlement options. Patricia and Simone met in a conference room during the lunch break. They're going to offer more money, Patricia said. Probably 200,000 plus some share of the hotel. What are you thinking? Simone had been thinking about this for months. I don't want the hotel. I don't want to be tied to him through shared business ownership. I want cash compensation equal to my inheritance plus damages, and I want him to buy out Natasha's ownership stake so she gets nothing. That's about $700,000 total. He might not have it. Then he can sell the hotel or take out a loan. Not my problem. You're sure? Because if we go back in there and Judge Walsh rules in our favor, she might order the hotel sold to pay you. That's his dream gone. He took mine, Simone said. Fair is fair. Day 3 was closing arguments. Mr. Chambers tried to paint Simone as a vindictive woman using the legal system to punish her husband for a personal mistake. Patricia painted Gregory as a calculating man who'd spent years committing financial fraud against his wife while planning to abandon her. Judge Walsh took an hour to review all the evidence before delivering her ruling. I find the evidence overwhelming that Mr. Fletcher engaged in deliberate financial misrepresentation and fraud against his wife. He converted her inheritance into business assets she had no claim to, hid money in secret accounts, used her credit without authorization, and planned to divorce her while leaving her destitute, all while conducting a years-long affair. These actions show clear intent to defraud. She ordered Gregory to pay Simone $600,000, the full inheritance amount plus damages. She ordered the Sterling Harbor Hotel to be appraised, and if Gregory couldn't pay the judgment within 60 days, the hotel would be sold to satisfy the debt. She also voided Natasha's ownership stake as having been given under fraudulent circumstances, meaning Natasha would receive nothing from the hotel. Additionally, Judge Walsh continued, I'm awarding Ms. Fletcher her legal fees and accounting costs, which appear to total approximately $100,000. Mr. Fletcher, you have 60 days to satisfy this judgment or face asset liquidation. Gregory's face went white. His lawyer started to object, but Judge Walsh cut him off. This case represents one of the more egregious examples of financial abuse I've seen. Mr. Fletcher systematically stole from his wife while making her feel worthless and incompetent. The fact that he's now facing the consequences of those choices is not unfair, it's justice. The judgment stands. Outside the courtroom, Patricia hugged Simone tightly. You did it. You actually did it. Simone felt light, like a weight she'd been carrying for years had finally lifted. What happens now? Now he has 60 days to find $700,000, or the Sterling Harbor gets sold at auction. Either way, you'll get paid what you're owed. And if he can't pay? Then his dream dies and you get to watch it happen. Simone thought about that. Gregory losing everything he'd worked for, just like he'd planned for her to lose everything. It should feel like victory. Instead, it felt like closure. I hope he can pay it, she said. I hope he finds a way to keep his hotel, learns from this, and becomes a better person. But either way, I'm done. I'm free. Patricia smiled. That's the healthiest attitude I've seen from any client ever. What are you going to do now? I have a third Lighthouse Hotel location to open. Want to come to the grand opening next month? Wouldn't miss it. 60 days after the judgment, Gregory sold the Sterling Harbor Hotel to a national chain for enough to pay Simone's settlement and cover his remaining debts, with almost nothing left over. Simone received the full $700,000 through a wire transfer on a Wednesday morning while she was reviewing paint colors for the third Lighthouse location. She stared at her bank balance on her phone for a long moment. $700,000. More money than her original inheritance. Justice quantified in numbers. It didn't change how she felt. The money was nice, but it wasn't the point anymore. The point was that she'd fought for herself and won. The point was that she'd built something better than what she'd lost. The point was that she was happy, truly happy, in a way she hadn't been during her entire marriage to Gregory. The third Lighthouse Hotel opened in January, 18 months after Simone had filed for divorce. It was the largest of the 3 locations, with 20 rooms and a restaurant that featured local cuisine. The design was bolder than the first 2 properties, with murals from regional artists and a rooftop garden where guests could watch sunsets. Simone's investor Rachel had brought in 2 additional partners, and they were already discussing a 4th location in a mountain resort town. The Lighthouse Hotel brand was becoming known for something special, authentic hospitality that made guests feel valued rather than processed. During the renovations for the 3rd location, Simone had worked closely with an architect named Andre Mitchell. He was a few years older than her, with kind eyes and a quiet way of listening that made her feel heard. He designed modifications to the building that preserved its historical character while updating functionality, and he'd never once talked over her ideas or dismissed her vision. "You really love this work," Andre observed one afternoon as they reviewed blueprints in the construction trailer. "I do," Simone admitted. "I didn't realize how much I'd missed being creative. I spent so many years making myself smaller, fitting into someone else's vision of what I should be. This feels like finding a piece of myself I'd lost." "Your ex-husband must have been an idiot," Andre said, then immediately looked embarrassed. "Sorry, that was unprofessional." Simone laughed. "It's accurate. But I'm grateful now. If he hadn't betrayed me, I might still be in that marriage, still believing I wasn't capable of this." She gestured at the construction around them, her dream taking physical form. They started meeting for coffee when the construction was done, first to discuss potential future projects, then just because they enjoyed talking. Andre had been divorced for 5 years and had worked through his own journey of rebuilding after a painful marriage ended. He understood, in a way most people didn't, what it meant to start over. "I'm not looking for anything serious," Simone told him after their 4th coffee meeting, when the conversation had started feeling like more than friendship. "I'm still figuring out who I am outside of being someone's wife." "I'm not either," Andre said. "But I like spending time with you. If that's all this is, I'm good with that." So they kept meeting for coffee, which turned into dinners, which turned into hiking trips and museum visits and long conversations about everything except romance. They were friends, they both agreed. Friends who sometimes held hands. Friends who kissed goodnight. Friends who were definitely falling for each other but taking it slow because they'd both learned that rushing into relationships led to losing yourself. The Lighthouse Hotel empire expanded to 5 locations over the next year. Simone hired a management company to handle day-to-day operations at the original 2 hotels so she could focus on strategic growth and new developments. She was offered speaking engagements at hospitality conferences, sharing her story of building a business from betrayal. She always left out the personal details. Those were hers, not for public consumption. But she talked about finding strength in difficult circumstances, about trusting your own vision even when others doubt you, about how the best revenge is building a life you love. Gregory faded into background noise. She heard occasionally through mutual acquaintances that he'd taken a general manager position at a hotel in another state. He'd reportedly sold his house to pay remaining debts and was living modestly, trying to rebuild his reputation in the industry. Natasha had disappeared entirely. Even the mutual acquaintances had lost track of her. Simone didn't follow up or investigate. They were part of her past and she was focused on her future. That future increasingly included Andre. After a year of just being friends, they finally admitted they'd fallen in love. Andre moved carefully, asking permission before making any relationship milestone. Could he meet her friends? Could they go away for a weekend together? Could he tell his family about her? "You know I'm not going to disappear or betray you, right?" he asked one evening over dinner at her apartment. "You can trust me." "I know," Simone said. "It's just hard sometimes. I trusted Gregory completely, and he turned that trust into a weapon against me. I'm still learning how to trust again without that fear. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." And he didn't. Andre was patient when she had bad days and celebrated her victories without trying to take credit. He encouraged her expansion plans without trying to manage them. He respected her independence while making it clear he wanted to be part of her life. 2 years after her divorce was finalized, Simone and Andre decided to collaborate on a new project together. A boutique hotel and event space that combined his architectural vision with her hospitality expertise. It would be a true partnership, with both their names on the ownership documents, with every decision made together. "Are you scared?" Andre asked when they signed the partnership agreement. "Terrified," Simone admitted, "but also excited. This feels different. This feels right." "It is different," he assured her. "We're building something together, not one person using the other. That's what partnership actually means." The project took another year to complete, but when the Harbor Light opened, a name that combined elements of both their previous ventures, it was everything they'd hoped. Beautiful spaces, exceptional service, and genuine collaboration between 2 people who respected each other. At the opening, which was a casual evening of wine and music rather than a formal gala, Simone's friend Rachel pulled her aside. "Look at you," Rachel said. 3 years ago, you were washing dishes at your husband's hotel while he paraded his mistress around. Now you're a successful businesswoman with 5 hotels, a 6th under construction, and a good man who treats you like a queen. That's not just success, that's triumph." Simone looked around the party. Her staff from all 5 Lighthouse locations had come to celebrate. The investors and partners who'd believed in her vision. The friends who'd supported her through the divorce. Andre talking with a group near the bar and catching her eye to smile. It doesn't feel like triumph, Simone said. It just feels like life. Like I'm finally living the way I was supposed to all along. That's the best kind of triumph, Rachel said. The kind where you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just exist in your success and happiness. Later that night, after everyone had left and Simone and Andre were locking up, he pulled her close. Happy? He asked. Yes, Simone said and meant it completely. Finally really happy. They drove home to the house Simone had bought with part of her settlement. A small craftsman with a garden where she grew vegetables and flowers. Andre stayed over most nights now, though they hadn't officially moved in together. Still taking it slow. Still protecting what they'd built. As Simone fell asleep that night, she thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago. The one who'd accepted humiliation because she thought that was what marriage required. The one who'd made herself small so her husband could feel big. The one who'd believed she couldn't survive without him. That woman was gone. The woman who replaced her was strong, successful, and surrounded by people who valued her. The woman who replaced her had learned that the best revenge wasn't destruction. It was creation. Building a better life. Becoming a better version of yourself. And falling in love with someone who saw you clearly and loved what they saw. Simone heard about Gregory's continued downfall through the industry network she'd become part of. After selling the Sterling Harbor, he'd taken a position as general manager at a mid-level hotel in a different state. The job lasted 6 months before he was fired for management incompatibility, code for the same issues that had plagued his own hotel. Staff complaints, customer issues, budget problems. He tried to start a consulting business advising other hotel owners, but his reputation had preceded him. The divorce trial had been public record, and in the small world of hospitality management, everyone knew what he'd done. Who wanted business advice from someone who defrauded his wife and destroyed his own hotel through mismanagement? Simone didn't seek out this information. It came to her through casual conversations at conferences and industry events. People would mention Gregory's latest failure, watching her face for a reaction. She learned to say, "I hope he figures things out," and mean it. Holding on to anger took energy she'd rather spend on her business and her life. 3 years after the divorce, Gregory showed up at a hospitality conference where Simone was a keynote speaker. She was presenting on building authentic hospitality brands to an audience of 200 hotel owners and managers. She didn't see him in the crowd until the Q&A session when he raised his hand. Her heart stuttered, but she kept her voice steady. "Yes, the gentleman in the back? Simone, it's Gregory. I was wondering if you have any advice for hotel owners who've made mistakes and are trying to rebuild their reputation." The room went silent. Everyone knew who he was and what had happened between them. The moderator started to intervene, but Simone held up a hand. "That's actually a good question," she said evenly. "Rebuilding trust after breaking it requires more than just time. It requires genuine accountability, not just admitting what you did wrong, but understanding why it was wrong and taking concrete steps to change. It requires making amends where possible. And it requires understanding that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. You don't get to decide when people forgive you or trust you again. You just do the work of becoming better and accept whatever consequences remain." She moved on to the next question without waiting for his response. After the presentation, several people approached to thank her for handling that moment with grace. Simone appreciated the support but felt emotionally exhausted. Gregory found her in the hallway outside the conference room. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Just 5 minutes? Please." Simone considered refusing but decided to get this conversation over with. 5 minutes? Here in the hallway where everyone can see us. They stood near a window overlooking the hotel's garden. Gregory looked older than she remembered, with gray at his temples and lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. "I've wanted to apologize for years," he started. "What I did to you was wrong. All of it. The affair, the financial abuse, the humiliation. You deserved better." "Yes, I did," Simone agreed. "I was so focused on what I wanted that I couldn't see how badly I was hurting you. I convinced myself you were fine with everything because you didn't fight back. I see now that I trained you not to fight back. I made you small so I could feel big. That's an accurate assessment. Is there anything I can do to make amends?" Gregory asked. "I know the money is paid and we're divorced, but is there anything else?" Simone thought about it. "Leave me alone. Stop showing up at conferences where I'm speaking. Stop asking mutual acquaintances about me. Let me move forward without you haunting my periphery. That's what I need from you. That's fair." He looked down at his hands. For what it's worth, I've been watching your success. The lighthouse hotels are really impressive. You built something special. I know. Better than the Sterling Harbor ever was. I know that too. I'm sorry I made you believe you couldn't do this. I'm sorry I stole your confidence along with your money. Simone felt nothing hearing the apology. No satisfaction, no anger, no closure. Just a distant acknowledgement that words were being said. I accept your apology, she said, because that seemed like the thing to say. But it doesn't change anything. What's done is done. I hope you find a way to live with what you did and become a better person. I genuinely hope that. But I don't need to be part of your redemption arc. Goodbye, Gregory. She walked away before he could respond. Later that evening, she called Andre from her hotel room and told him about the encounter. How do you feel? Andre asked. Empty. Not angry or sad. Just done. Like closing a book I finished reading a long time ago. That's healthy. You've moved on. Have you heard from your ex-wife lately? Simone asked. Andre's former wife had remarried and moved across the country, but they'd remained civil for the sake of their adult daughter. Christmas card last year. We're friendly in the way people are when they shared a life once but have nothing in common anymore. That's what I want with Gregory. Polite indifference from a distance. Then that's what you should have. You don't owe him anger or forgiveness or anything in between. You just owe yourself peace. Simone heard through the gossip network that Natasha had left the hospitality industry entirely and was working in real estate in a different state. She'd apparently gotten married to someone she met through work and had a child. Simone felt nothing about that news either. Natasha was a stranger who'd briefly intersected with her life and caused pain, but that pain had led to growth Simone was grateful for now. At another conference 6 months later, Simone ran into Claire, the young woman who'd been working in the kitchen the night of the Sterling Harbor's opening. Claire had been one of the staff members who'd witnessed Gregory ordering Simone to wash dishes. I've been following your success, Claire said. The Lighthouse hotels are known for treating staff really well. I applied to work at your third location and got hired. I start next month. That's wonderful, Simone said. We're lucky to have you. That night at the Sterling Harbor when he made you wash dishes in front of everyone, I wanted to quit right then. But I needed the job. I felt terrible that we all just watched. It wasn't your responsibility to fix my marriage, Simone assured her. But thank you for remembering. It means a lot that what happened mattered to someone besides me. It mattered to all of us in that kitchen. We talked about it for months afterward. When you opened the lighthouse and we heard you were hiring, half the staff from the Sterling Harbor applied. We wanted to work for someone who actually valued people. Simone learned later that several employees from Gregory's failed hotel had found positions at various lighthouse locations. They'd sought her out specifically, wanting to work for a leader who treated them with respect. It felt like poetry, the people Gregory had overlooked building success for the woman he'd underestimated. The consequences for Gregory continued to unfold. His consulting business never took off. His management positions kept ending in firings or mutual separations. His name became a cautionary tale in hospitality school programs, an example of how poor leadership and ethical failures could destroy even the most promising ventures. Simone knew all this but felt distant from it, like watching a movie about someone else's life. Gregory's failures weren't her victory, they were just the natural result of his choices. Her victory was the 6 successful hotels, the thriving business, the healthy relationship with Andre, and the peace she felt every morning waking up in a life she'd built for herself. That was the real consequence Gregory faced. Not poverty or professional failure, but irrelevance in Simone's life. He'd spent years making her feel small and meaningless. Now she'd built something so much bigger than him that he barely registered in her awareness. And that, Simone realized, was the truest revenge of all. 5 years after washing dishes in a kitchen while wearing an evening gown, Simone stood on a stage at the National Hospitality Awards accepting the award for Innovative Independent Hotel Group. The Lighthouse Hotels had grown to 8 locations across 3 states, with 2 more in development. Her keynote address earlier that day had received a standing ovation. Multiple investors had approached about franchising opportunities. She wore a different emerald dress, not silk this time, but a modern cut that felt both professional and powerful. Her speech was brief and focused on thanking her team, her investors, and the guests who'd supported her vision. What she didn't mention was Gregory, sitting somewhere in the audience of 2,000 hospitality professionals, watching her receive the award he'd once dreamed of winning. After the ceremony, Simone found Andre waiting outside the ballroom with a bouquet of her favorite flowers, sunflowers, bright and unpretentious. "How does it feel?" he asked, pulling her into a hug. Surreal. Good. A little overwhelming. You deserve this. You built something remarkable. They'd gotten engaged 3 months earlier, in the rooftop garden of the third lighthouse location, with no fanfare or production. Just Andre asking if she wanted to build a life together the way they'd been building businesses together. Simone had said yes because it felt right, not rushed or pressured but natural. Like the next chapter of a story she was writing herself. The wedding was planned for next summer, a small gathering at the Harbor Light, the hotel they owned together. Nothing like the elaborate ceremony she and Gregory had had 15 years ago, when she'd been young and believed love meant sacrifice and compromise. This wedding would be about partnership and joy and two people who'd both survived difficult marriages choosing to try again with wisdom and intention. At the awards dinner that evening, Simone's table included her core team, Rachel and the other investors, Jamie from the front desk who now managed 2 locations, Yolanda the designer, Patricia the lawyer who'd become a friend. They celebrated with good wine and laughter, and Simone felt surrounded by people who valued her. Gregory approached the table during dessert, which took courage or desperation. Simone wasn't sure which. Congratulations, he said stiffly. The award was well deserved. Thank you, Simone replied, her voice polite but distant. I saw you're expanding to the mountain region. Smart move. That market is underserved. We did our research. An awkward pause. Gregory glanced at Andre, at the engagement ring on Simone's finger, at the award trophy on the table. You really did it, Gregory said quietly. Everything you've accomplished. It's impressive. I know. He laughed, a short bitter sound. You've changed. The Simone I knew would never be this confident. The Simone you knew was the version you created, small and uncertain and afraid. She's gone. I killed her when I signed the divorce papers. Gregory flinched. I should let you enjoy your evening. Congratulations again. After he left, Rachel raised her wine glass. To killing off the parts of ourselves that don't serve us, and building something better from what remains. They all toasted to that. The next morning, Simone had breakfast with a journalist from a major hospitality publication who was writing a feature article about her journey. She'd agreed to do the interview with specific boundaries. She'd discuss her business success but keep personal details private. How did you go from being a hotel owner's wife to competing with him and winning? The journalist asked. I stopped seeing myself through someone else's eyes, Simone said. I stopped believing that my worth was determined by whether someone else valued me. I started trusting my own vision and working hard to make it real. The competition part wasn't intentional. I just built what I thought a hotel should be, and people responded to that. There are rumors your ex-husband's career has struggled while yours has thrived. How do you feel about that? I feel that everyone faces the consequences of their choices. My ex-husband made certain choices in how he treated people, how he ran his business, how he valued integrity. Those choices had natural results. I made different choices and got different results. It's not about revenge or competition. It's about both of us living with what we created. Some people call you a success story of a woman taking back her power after abuse. Simone considered that. I prefer to think of myself as someone who discovered power she'd always had but didn't know how to access. The circumstances were painful, but they revealed strength and capability I'd been taught to doubt. I'm grateful for that revelation, even though I wish it had come differently. The article ran 2 months later with the headline, Building an Empire from Betrayal, How Simone Fletcher Turned Heartbreak into Hospitality Success. It featured photos of all 8 lighthouse locations and quoted industry experts praising her innovative approach to boutique hotels. Gregory called her after the article published, the first time she'd answered his call in years. I read the article, he said. You were really generous. You could have destroyed my reputation completely, but you focused on your success instead. Destroying you wouldn't make me more successful, Simone said. And honestly, Gregory, you're not that important to my story anymore. The betrayal was a catalyst, but everything that came after was mine. You're just a footnote in the introduction. That's fair. He paused. I'm working as a night manager at a highway hotel now. It's humbling, but it's honest work. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. I hope that goes well for you. Can I ask you something? Do you ever regret it? Leaving instead of trying to work things out? Simone thought about the question seriously. No, not even a little. The marriage we had was built on an imbalance I didn't see. You valued yourself and your dreams more than you valued me and mine. That kind of foundation can't support real partnership. Leaving was the healthiest choice I ever made. I'm sorry I made you feel unvalued. I know. And I've accepted your apology. But Gregory, you need to understand something. Your apologies don't undo the damage and they don't obligate me to make space for you in my life. I've forgiven you in the sense that I've let go of anger and moved forward. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation or friendship. It just means I'm free. I understand. I hope you find peace with your choices and build a better life. I genuinely mean that. But this is the last conversation we need to have. Goodbye, Gregory. She hung up and blocked his number. Not out of anger, but out of completion. That chapter was finished. 6 months later, Simone and Andre got married in the garden at the harbor light on a perfect spring afternoon. 50 guests witnessed them exchange vows that were honest and simple. Promises to respect each other, support each other's dreams, and navigate challenges as true partners. Simone's father had died years before, but she felt his presence in the success she'd built with the inheritance he'd left her. He would have been proud, she thought, not just of the hotels but of how she'd fought for herself and won. During the reception, Rachel gave a toast. 5 years ago, Simone walked into my restaurant looking for an investor. She had a business plan, $30,000, and more determination than anyone I'd ever met. She told me she was going to build something better than what she'd lost, and I believed her. Today, we're celebrating in the 6th property she's built, about to marry someone who sees her clearly and values her deeply. That's not just business success, that's life success. Later, during the first dance, Andre whispered, "Happy?" "Completely," Simone said. "This is what happy feels like." I'd almost forgotten. The Lighthouse hotels continued to grow. Simone developed a reputation as a thoughtful leader and savvy businesswoman. She mentored other women starting businesses after divorce, offering both practical advice and emotional support. She'd learned that success after betrayal wasn't just possible, it was a powerful story that gave hope to others in dark places. 10 years after the divorce, the Lighthouse Hotel Group operated 15 locations and had become a case study in business schools about sustainable growth and values-based leadership. Simone had written a book about building businesses with integrity, which became required reading in several hospitality programs. Gregory had left the hotel industry entirely, last she heard, and was working in commercial real estate in a different state. They had no contact and no mutual friends anymore. He was genuinely just a person she used to know, someone from a life that felt more like a movie she'd watched than something she'd actually lived. On her 50th birthday, Simone hosted a celebration at the original Lighthouse Hotel, the 12-room property that had started everything. Andre had surprised her by compiling letters from guests over the years, people who'd stayed at various Lighthouse locations and wanted to tell her how much the experience had meant to them. "You created something that makes people feel valued," Andre said as she read through the letters, tears in her eyes. "That's what happens when someone who felt devalued builds something new. You made sure no one in your hotels ever feels the way you felt in that marriage." Simone thought about the woman she'd been at the grand opening of the Sterling Harbor, standing in that kitchen in her ruined emerald dress, believing she was worthless because one person treated her that way. She thought about the journey from that moment to this one, the fear, the planning, the risk, the work, the triumph. "The best revenge," she said, echoing what she told herself a decade ago, "really is living well. Building something better. Becoming someone stronger." "You didn't just get revenge," Andre said, kissing her forehead. "You got free." And that, Simone knew, was the real victory. Not Gregory's failure. Not even her success. Just freedom. From the small box someone had tried to keep her in, from the doubts he'd planted, from the belief that she needed permission to be magnificent. She'd taken back her power, rebuilt her life, and created something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal. That night, standing in the lobby of her first hotel, surrounded by people who loved and respected her, Simone felt complete. The journey from humiliation to triumph had been long and painful, but it had led her exactly where she needed to be. Free, successful, happy, and entirely, powerfully herself.